It was the least taxing thing I've ever done in my broadcasting career. 25, 30 years. Least taxing thing I've ever done. And yet today they still say, hey, the beer money guy. Hey, what were the questions for $5? You know, it was like, I did all those other things.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, the beer money guy. I watched that during rain delays.
I can't be the only one that asks you about that, right? Like,
No,
there's got to be
it's
people that
fun.
still.
I mean, I'll tell you about it. It's a funny story. I was just the producer that worked on it all the time and did all the editing. I was just texting with her randomly today, and I was like, "Yeah, I got to do something about beer money." She's like, "People still ask me about it."
Yeah. I feel like it was almost ahead of its time. Like, I feel like it would sit
Right?
perfectly in this whole content thing right now, right?
Yeah, exactly. I do too.
Yeah, you guys might have to bring it back.
It costs money.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it was like somebody owns the rights to the actual game,
Okay.
and I want to say it was like $16,000 a season or something crazy.
No shit. Okay. What was the origin? I know that it originally started as gas money, but like, how did they pitch it to you guys?
They were doing the Gas Money show at Comcast Sportsnet Philadelphia. So I don't know how it got started there. It was part of their programming, and I think they stopped it after a very brief amount of time. But we were like, "Yeah, we'll do it, I guess." And I wasn't the first one to do it.
No. Okay. But you did it early. I mean, I feel like I'm going back
Yeah,
to like, I think I looked at it
I did.
09 even.
Gosh, I don't even know. I don't even know what the years are. Ted Brunson and Sarah Kustok did at least one season
Hmm.
before Kustok left town. And when she went to New York, yeah, I don't even remember what year that was, but
Yeah.
I think that was the first time I did it.
And then I think, yeah, so it started off as gas money. And when did they decide to like switch it to beer money? And what did they tell you about that?
That was only after a couple of seasons because Coors became the sponsor.
I see. Okay.
So they
That
were
makes
like,
sense.
listen, we can't have Coors as a sponsor. We talking about money for driving.
I mean, it checks all the boxes better that way anyway. You know, you got
Yeah,
beer, you got Chicago
yeah,
sports
it did.
trivia and bars. It doesn't get any
Yeah,
more.
it was a better name. Gas Money
Yeah.
was a strange name anyway.
Did they did it in New York too, I think, right?
I
Is
think
that what I saw?
SNY eventually did it too. Yeah, our
Yeah.
news director went from actually she went from Chicago to New York to SNY
Okay.
at some point.
So
Now
she kind
she's
of brought
not
it
the
with her.
person that put me on it, I don't think though, but she just would have known that we were doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel like it just works in Chicago better than any place else.
Yeah, I mean it was perfect in Chicago. I had a great time with it. I think the key to it being successful when I was doing it, when I first went into it, I didn't want to do it.
Okay.
I was basically told like, "Hey, we need you to do this," and I was like, "Okay," you know. But I kind of said like, if I'm gonna do it, I want to embrace how ridiculous it is, you know. And I kind of took it from like, listen, I'm gonna have to make fun of some people, and I'm gonna have to just make fun of the idea that these are the questions that we're even asking sometimes, you know. And so it became. I tried to put a little fun spin on it sometimes and not take it too seriously. And I think when the hosts are having more fun, the viewers are having more fun. Hopefully that's
Yeah.
the, hopefully that's the result.
Yeah. And I know they kind of like probably pitched it more as like a content show back then, but it always like came on during rain delay. It was a rain delay
Yeah.
theater. Like, you know, that was one of the things where it's like, oh fuck, we're in a rain delay, but beer money's on, so this is fun, you know. So
Yeah.
that was my takeaway from it. That's when I usually watched it.
I get it. I'll get texts or tweets or messages on X, whatever you want to call it, all the time during baseball season on rain delay. Like, can we turn this off and put beer money back on? Like, that's really where, yeah, it wasn't like first run on Sunday night was like a big deal. It was that people would play along while they had an hour rain delay and
Yeah.
watch for the crazy contestants. Um, yeah, Kustok and Ted Brunson were the first to do that. I think they had at least one season, and that was Sarah Kustok kind of broke in with us she wasn't really reporting or anchoring yet. Um, she was kind of breaking into the business, and Sarah was doing beer money for gas money for us,
Yeah.
and she was doing some of the high school football stuff on the
Right.
show High School Lights. And you know, the rest is history for her. I mean, now she's now she's big time.
Yeah. Same with Jen Latta. That was like your first co-host with after
Yeah, for
you
me it
took over,
was
right?
actually
Or
so
Susanna Collins.
yes, I think I actually might have done a season with Sarah Kustok, um, or at least a partial season before she left. And then, yes, Susanna Collins, I did at least a couple seasons with, then Jen Latta, then Kelly Kroll. And I probably did some random episodes, probably with Layla Rahimi. I think I might have done one with
Oh, I
Chuck
didn't know Layla
Garfine. I
did it.
think we might have done like a spring training episode or something like that.
Hmm.
But mostly it was, yeah, Susanna, then Jen Latta, and then Kelly Kroll at the end.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I'm not going to ever ask you like who your favorite was, but I mean, Kelly always did seem like she was really committed to the bit. You know, she was like really,
Yeah,
she looked like she was could be one of the patrons having a good time.
I feel like it kind of built at that point, right? Like we had at that
Yeah.
point embraced the silliness of it. And so by the time it got to Kelly, Kelly knew the role, right? Like she knew what we were doing. It was like occasionally we're going to drag this out and make people give answers they don't want to give. And occasionally we're going to have someone that really knows nothing, but we're going to give them the most simple questions just so somebody wins some money on this show. Um, and you know, behind the scenes, there were no real rules. It
Mm.
was the boss gave you like $400 with producer Sarah Lauk, who was really the key to the show. You know, like she's the one that edited the whole thing. And we would go out with questions. Chris Kampka wrote most of the questions for it, who's now,
Okay.
at
Yeah.
Marquee and stuff. And then we would add in other ones, or I would look through the questions beforehand and be like, this is going to have to go in the ridiculously hard pile. And this is only for somebody that is annoying that wants to play the game and is hounding us while we're at a bar. I'm saving that card for the guy that's a jerk that just will not leave us alone. He's going to get that card. And then if somebody was really nice, I'd save a few slow fastballs down the middle of the plate.
Yeah, I remember you like in particular would try to help people out. Like there was this one guy that I
Yeah.
thought he was going to crush it. And then you asked him to name like 5 Bears quarterbacks since 2000 and I think it was like 2014 he couldn't even name 5. And
Yeah.
his wife and you were trying to help him and I'm just like, "Oh my god, they
Yeah.
probably had like 3 guys already played that year." Like,
Yeah.
you know
If
what I
they were
mean? It was
nice,
like
sometimes it'd be like, all right, first letter sounds like Butler, but not Butler. Go to the next letter.
I think one of his answers was like Mike Gannon and you're like, "Really? You want to rethink that?" And he was like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah, there were some all-time classics. I think the score kind of caught on that we were having fun with it and they
Yeah.
started making fun of it. And Clark from Des Plaines was at the Hooters, I think in Schaumburg maybe, and he's the famous 83.
I was gonna say, yeah,
It
the
still
show
lives
has its
on.
own
Yeah,
subculture lore. Yeah,
yeah.
the '83 guy. Explain that.
Somebody sent me a shirt even with 83 Nation on. I actually maybe it was Sarah Lauk that just bought it and I started wearing it on shows. I don't even know who was making it. But yeah, Clark from Des Plaines. I'm trying to think what the question was. It had to do with the Bears.
Right.
I think it was what year did the Bears lose to the Packers? I think in the NFC Championship, and it had just happened, and he was like 83. And I'm like, well, no, and I hope Clark is still doing well. He's really taking a beating on that answer. They still do drops on the score for 83. And also there was a young man that did it at Bears training camp in Bourbonnais.
Okay.
And what was Richard Dent's nickname? And I think he was like the sack machine. And that's a drop I think that gets played a lot still too.
Yeah, I
But,
don't think I've heard that one. But the
they
83
were
guy
yeah,
is
they were a lot of
still
fun
big.
ones. You can go back and find some on I know on, like, Google. You just Google some of them and they pull up. One of the things
Was it
before I left
Tannehill?
Indy's what's
Was it
that?
Tannehill? Was it Chris Tannehill that like brought the
I
83 to
yeah, I think so.
its
I
heights?
I
Yeah.
I believe. I think it was either Tannehill or Shane Reardon. I'm not sure who it was.
And then
Then
you
we
got
did the
Gas Money
All-Stars.
Bob.
Yeah, Gas Money Bob's out there. I don't know who that
Yeah.
is.
You don't?
Uh,
No.
I I always assumed Gas Money Bob was probably like John Greenberg, somebody that's a little snarky, you know, yeah, clever and a little snarky. It sounds like it could be Greenberg.
Yeah, it's kind of
Um,
like Chicago Party Ant. It's got its own.
yeah, exactly. Then we got to the end there and we did the All-Star show and we just
Yeah.
started pulling our favorite contestants and we had them kind of face off and we did that at Joe's on Weed. And actually, I think we had a pretty full crowd at Joe's on Weed for it. And that's when I was like, oh man, this is this is this has gotten a little ridiculous, this whole show. There were
Yeah.
some
See,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, when did you know that this was becoming like a thing? It wasn't just like some rain delay
Nah,
theater. Like it actually became
well,
had some energy.
I mean, to tell you the truth, Tom, like I said, I didn't want to do it when they first
Yeah.
told me like they were like, we need somebody to do this, and you're the only one that will have fun with it, right? Like, and I was like, okay, all right, I'll do it. And there were times where you would go to a bar and it was all set up by sales, what bar you were going to or where you were doing
Okay.
it. And
Yeah.
without question, they were sending us to a bar in like DeKalb at 3:45 or 4 o'clock. We'll be there at 4. And it was like, we're leaving from the merchandise mart. It's going to take us 2.5 hours to drive out to DeKalb. What are we doing here? And you get to some and there'd be like three people in the bar.
Oh wow.
You're like, how are we going to give away $400 in this bar? And then you get through a season of it, and all of a sudden it was like, there's people waiting for you. And at one point, there were some groupies, I would almost call it. And the most alarming was I lived in Wicker Park, Bucktown, Ukrainian village at the time,
Yeah.
and I opened the door, and I had like an outside gate. Um, I opened my door to get my mail, and two of them were standing outside the gate, and I was like, "Closed door," and this has gotten a little too ridiculous. you know, we had to tell some people they couldn't play every single time they showed up, but it was fun. I knew it was something when listen, when I started doing it, I don't remember what year it was, but I had been there, I don't know, 10 years. I was there 16 years. I'd been there at least eight years. I had hosted Cubs pre and post. I had hosted Bulls pre and post. I had reported on both teams. At that point, I had been doing Blackhawks pre and post
Yeah.
and sideline reporting. I had covered the Bears. I had covered the White Sox a little bit, and it was like some of these things you do take a lot of work and prep, right? Like, I mean, painstaking hours of making sure you're right, being prepared. I spent 10 years of my life trying to get back to Chicago, so you don't want to screw it up, and you're putting all this time in. And then you get to beer money, and there's literally zero preparation. Okay. It's helping write a couple questions, drive in the car, have fun with some people, go home. That
Yeah.
was it. Like it was the least taxing thing I've ever done in my broadcasting career. 25, 30 years. Least taxing thing I've ever done. And yet today they still say, "Hey, the beer money guy. Hey, what were the questions for $5?" It was like I did all those other things. Like I don't care about Emmys and that stuff. I joke about it all the time, but it's like no, nobody cares about any of the other stuff. And the thing that I had zero preparation for is still the one thing that people that it's usually the first thing. Oh yeah, the beer money guy. I'd watch that during rain delays. It's funny. You spend all that time working on stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you were great on Comcast Sportsnet and NBC Sports Chicago, but yeah, I think people just appreciated watching you guys have fun, and
Yeah.
that's what Chicago was, it's kind of like, and like I said, you and Kelly looked like you really did like
Yeah,
have a
we did.
blast doing it. Yeah.
I had fun with all of
And Jen
Susanna
too,
was
but yeah.
each was a
Yeah.
little bit different. Susanna was very fun too, and so was
Yeah.
Jen. We every person I did it with, we had fun, and I know it continued on a little bit afterwards. After I was gone from NBC, I think
Yeah.
they did it maybe for like one more year, and they just had random people filling in. I don't know how it all ended, but I know, like I said, it financially it wasn't. You made your money back because you could sell it, and we had sponsors, and but it was really for me, it was about programming. Like you said, you have 24-hour programming on a regional sports network, and two of the teams you had playing on it had rain delays. So, you know, you got 6 months of the year where you have programming that you don't know what you're going to put in. You can only put on so many infomercials and stuff where people are just going to finally be like, click, 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 click. You can only do a countdown so many times on a network and be like, these are our best 10 plays. Whereas somebody always wants to tell you they know more about sports than you do. That's the one thing about being a sportscaster. I always told interns going in, I said, listen, I've I started out having to do news in this business. I had started out being a producer. I started out having to be a news reporter. Then I was the weather guy for a couple years. They finally let me do sports. And the only job where your audience, every single member of your audience thinks they know more than you,
Yeah.
and sometimes they might, is sports because everybody's an expert. Nobody's ever like, oh, you know what? That high pressure system that's coming in with some overrunning and we're going to get a nobody thinks they know more than the weather guy. You know, they don't. The weather guy's wrong or the weather anchor is wrong, but you don't think you really know more than them. And even the news anchor, you might have different opinions about stories they're running, but there aren't too many times that Dan Rather was doing the news or whoever, and you were like, well, I bet you I'm smarter than Dan Rather or Tom Brokaw or whoever it might be, right? But a sports anchor or a sports reporter, every sentence is picked apart. And so that's what makes beer money fun. It gave the chance for people that sit at home and be like, I know that. They could do that over their peers, just fans, right? And
Right.
they could do it over the anchors sometimes too, because if you feel like they're asking a question, you feel like they don't know the answer. Sometimes I didn't. The questions to be written on the card, I didn't know the answer. I'm not a trivia buff, but that was the fun of it. Everybody thinks they're a sports expert.
Was there like a Ken Jennings like moment for somebody that was just like nailing everything?
Uh, well, like I
Or
said,
was it usually the other way?
we had the all stars. I think it was more fun the other way.
Yeah.
You know, where you caught somebody that had had a couple beers and they got their liquid courage and they wanted to show off for their wife or their girlfriend or their buddies. They stood in line and pop on went the bright light on top of the giant TV camera and humada, 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 humada. Like that happened every single episode. And not everybody that was filmed actually made the show. Like
Mm,
Sarah had to decide sometimes, okay, we can't put that on there. That's just, this person looks too drunk or
yeah.
you know, a body part slipped out or, whatever. Some just could, or somebody swore too much that even the beeps
Yeah.
were too much that you couldn't put them on. And she had a great way of knowing what the line was and editing that together. And I think we had kind of a knack hosting it for at times. Um, I think from the start, you could kind of tell what you were going to get. So I don't know if too
Okay.
many totally surprised you.
Yeah.
Um, but when it did, I mean, it was the guys that were on the people that were on the All Stars, like some of them really knew crazy stuff. I don't know about you, Tom. I've never been a numbers guy. When somebody
Mm,
asked me like, hey, who wears number 13 for the Cubs, I always have to go Google that stuff. I'm just not a
Okay.
numbers guy. And sure, I know the Sandbergs and the easy ones, but
Mhm.
there's somewhere I'm like, Travis Wood, I don't know. I don't remember what number he wore. And
Yeah.
some people know that stuff. Like they remember that stuff. And I do think that's another reason it played in Chicago so well is that I think while the fun part of the show was kind of poking fun at what we don't know, Chicago is a knowledgeable fan base. Like there are some that know ridiculous stuff, and we tried to mix those in when we would find them too. And you're not setting them up to find them. You're just saying we're going to be at a bar in Cary, or you're going to be at a bar down in River North, and they show up, and all of a sudden you're like, this guy's a savant. Like, how do they know that? Like, you are truly a super fan. And I hosted one other trivia show at NBC. Again, at that time, it was either CSN or Comcast Sportsnet, but it was still the same network. And it was at the same time as I started doing Beer Money. Um, and I think it was called Covering the Bases or Around the
Yes.
Bases.
I remember that. Yeah. They showed
And
that during
it
Cubs
was a
rain delays too.
studio show. It was a studio show that they literally asked me to do the day before. And we're like,
Yeah.
hey, we need you to do this. And we taped like 20 episodes in one day. And
Wow.
there was a sign up. I didn't know I was doing the show. There was a sign up to be on it. Are you an expert? And there was no teleprompter. There were some cue cards to tell me it would go to break, and I had some literally white note cards with questions and answers on it. But it was studio form. It was more like Jeopardy type stuff, you know? Like you want to go for the hard question, the single, the double, the triple, the homer.
Yeah.
And even on that show, you were like, wow, some of these people, but they were all smart. There was nobody on that show where you were like 83 or you just got some
Yeah.
ridiculous answer, right? So they were all experts. I didn't care for that show as much only because first of all, it was really hard. I had to change suits like every episode to make it look like it was a new episode. So I had
Yeah.
literally carried in like 20 suits one day and was
Wow.
changing. And then I'd run out and be like, okay, your name is Tom and you're going against Sherry and you're from where? Okay, let's go. Roll tape. It's like, it was too much. Beer Money was easy.
Okay. Was there like a real like what the fuck moment that you remember that like you'll never forget?
We did a Christmas one year. They didn't impact me as much as they did Kelly, Susanna, Jen, especially I want to say Kelly at the end. There were people bringing her Christmas presents and stuff at the end and like I don't know if it was flowers, but some of them got a little uncomfortable because it was clear that they were like, "Hey, would you like to go on a date?" And and we're like,
Oh wow.
we had to have security at the end. We
Oh,
had to bring a cameraman or two camera people. Sarah was sometimes blocking people out. And if we had an intern, sometimes the intern had to be there like, can you give us a little space uh in between shooting people? Like um if I was recording part of the show with somebody, Kelly's off to the side. Did we have to pull somebody away that was really like, being a little aggressive?
yeah.
Did it happen? Yes, but she really rolled with the punches. And I think, she felt, I don't want to speak for her, but she felt safe. But it was to a point where we did had to brief some people because it was like people literally brought Kelly gifts on the show. I don't think I ever got a gift. I guess, like, guess that shows what I'm worth.
Well, I mean, why do you think it stuck so much?
Um, like I said, I think number one, it's a knowledgeable fan base, and I think people think they're
Yeah.
so knowledgeable, which is fair, that when they see somebody who doesn't know something on TV, the first time they see that in a rain delay, they want to play.
Yeah.
They want to prove it. It's not about the $120. It really wasn't. For
Mm,
most people, it wasn't about the 120 bucks. It was about bragging that they would be on the next rain delay and they'd be like, see, I know everything. And it became that. And that's why I say, like, when they first said, okay, we want you to do this, and I said, well, we have to embrace the dumb as much as the smart. This shouldn't just be, hey, four guys in a row and three women come on and we have seven people and they all win 120 bucks. That's not reality because I know there's going to be some goofballs on there and they shouldn't end up on the cutting room floor just because they were bad. When you sign up to do it, you have to know, listen, I could be an internet moment or I could be winning 120 bucks in bragging rights. And that's the pressure that was put on them when that light popped on. That was the reality of, oh crap, am I up for the bright light and the big camera and the $100 question? Am I really will like I if I really liked a contestant, my smart advice was always stop at 20. If I were
mm,
you, you might want to stop at 20 because generally to give away the 100 bucks, you couldn't have four contestants and give away 100 bucks because the show was over,
mm,
right? We didn't go there with $1,000 in our pocket. Sometimes we were going there with 300 or 250, and it was like, we have to spread this out so it's a full half-hour show. And usually we would say, we have to spread this out so it's two half-hour shows, right? Depending on
okay.
what the budget was from the programming guy. So not everybody could get it right.
What was your favorite bar that you guys went to?
Oh, gosh, I can't even remember the names of all of them. We did have a lot of fun being on stage at um, Joe's on Weed.
Mm,
That the All Star show was fun because people were rowdy in the crowd. And let me think. Well, I mean, Hooters in Schaumburg gave us Clark. They
there you
actually,
go.
instead of the bars, generally, I enjoyed events. Because I wasn't having to go around and be like, would you like to play beer money? Sometimes if we didn't promote it enough, or it was the middle of nowhere, it was just a day where there wasn't a big enough sporting event going on. Nobody's at the bar at 5 o'clock, sometimes. And I didn't
Yeah,
like having to just go up to somebody that didn't even know what the show was and be like, you want to win 120 bucks? Like that. I wasn't into that. But
yeah.
Cubs convention was always a blast. Bears training camp was always a blast. 115 Bourbon Street was fun. Gosh, I don't want to leave somebody out. We went
Yeah,
to O'Neill's on Wells Street was always fun. And it
yeah.
was usually fun to get the bartenders involved too. It was
Oh, okay.
always fun to get somebody at the bar that either didn't want to do it or thought they had to do it. And getting the workers involved usually got the crowd pretty fired up. We had one, I don't think it was at O'Neill's. You had people that wanted to sing along with you and Sarah would talk people into the give me your best lovables dance moves, and that always led to ridiculousness, right? So those stand out. We had there's a bar, I can't remember the name of it, in Cary, right next to the train station. And we had a lot of fun there. It was packed because it was people were getting off the train.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. That's fun.
my wife was on that episode. She,
Oh,
she wanted to do it. I didn't give her the hard questions.
okay.
So she did win, but not she did not take the money. So, anyways, yeah, that I think it truly is. I started I've been in television or media or broadcasting since 93 with internships. And it's still the thing people ask me about the most, you know?
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad
It's
I could
still
talk to
the
you about
thing
this then.
people ask me about the most. In fact, I worked in San Antonio and I happened to be back there uh covering something, I think, and I was on the Riverwalk and I had two people see me on the Riverwalk and shout out two things. One was somebody from the state of Nebraska, my previous job, yelling 10-11 sports. And I was like, I haven't worked there in, 15 years. And
Yeah.
then the next one was beer money. And I was like, are you kidding me? Some random person on the Riverwalk in San Antonio.
Well, okay. That makes me feel good. It makes me realize it wasn't just me that was
No,
nostalgic
no,
for
no,
the
no, no.
show. So that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, this show obviously could still work today. Someone's gonna have to bring
I
it back.
agree.
So we're
Somebody's
gonna
got to
raise the
pony up the
money.
16 grand.
We're gonna put you back to work, Luke. All right, man. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it, Luke.
Sure. Good luck with the podcast. Hope everything goes well.